The following is one of 2 recovered photographs from the Stirling City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day in which 14 children vanished and for what is referred to as the Slender Man is first sighted. Deformities cited as film defects confirmed by law enforcement. The fire at the City Library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence. Photograph was taken by who vanished shortly after on the 13th of June 1986. No suspect or lead has ever been found in relation to her disappearance. Law enforcement advises members of the public to not approach the man seen in the photograph. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to be doing something very different from my usual anime content. We are going to be delving into the spookier side of the internet and looking at the rise, the peak, and the eventual decline of the genre known as creepypasta. But before we do, I am trying to hit 300 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you do enjoy today's video, make sure to like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, if you were around during the early days of the internet like myself, you should be familiar with the term creepypasta. If you're not, that is okay. I will now do a brief summary of what creepypasta actually was. Creepypasta gets its name from copypasta, which is where you would copy something like a text message and send it to people. Now do that with something creepy, and then you have creepypasta. The first creepypasta that really got any limelight was Ted the Caver. This story first appeared in the early 2000s, and little did we know the genre that this would later go on to birth. Now, I'm not really familiar with Ted the Caver, but later on I will tell you some of the ones that I am more familiar with. Before I do that, however, I think it's important we look at what facilitated this rapid growth in the genre. Creepypasta's success can be attributed to 3 things really, in my opinion, and that is the quality of the pieces being written, the time it came out, and its core audience. As previously mentioned, the first real creepypasta came out in the early 2000s, a time where a lot of people weren't really familiar with concepts such as Photoshop or video editing, which they would later become familiar with. The successful creepypastas at the time came with images that, whilst heavily edited, still looked somewhat believable. I will put some of them up on screen now, and naturally with these images there came the core audience of creepypasta, which were young impressionable teenagers. And what are teenagers? Gullible. I mean, the first time I saw the image of the expressionless, which I will again put on screen now, it still makes me uneasy to this day. I mean, look at it. It is uneasy. It is spooky. We do not like spooky things. The only thing I like is spooky, scary skeletons, but they're not here right now. And the writing quality is also something to note. Some of the stories were really well written and thought out, whereas others, such as Jeff the Killer, were not. The examples of the well written stories being Mr. Widemouth, Ben Drowned, Slender Man, and many, many more. Creepypasta's rise into its peak can ultimately be attributed to the internet and the way people consumed long-form story-esque content at the time, and this would ultimately lead into the peak of the genre known as creepypasta. In the mid-2010s, creepypasta started gaining more and more traction thanks to a little website known as YouTube. Creepypasta videos started sprouting up everywhere, but no creepypasta would gain the traction and cult-like following like a certain Slender Man. Originating on the Something Awful forum when user Eric Knudsen posted this photoshopped image with a caption detailing how after this image was taken, 14 children went missing. This image and story immediately sparked interest into whatever the hell this creature actually was, and whilst Eric Knudsen was the creator of Slender Man, no one could have foreseen the following and intrigue the channel known as Marble Hornets would bring to the character. Most of the tropes of Slender Man that are iconic today, such as his interference with electrical equipment, most famously his static effect he has on cameras, actually came from the Marble Hornets series. This series is formatted as found footage, which really added to the myth of Slender Man at the time. It also introduced 2 other characters, Marsky and Hoodie. And a big misconception in the Slender Man and overall the bigger creepypasta community is that Marsky and Hoodie were proxies. However, they were not. And unfortunately, the concept of proxies would have dire consequences in the real world. Whilst at the time, creepypasta's growth seemed infinite, there would be an infamous event that happened on the 31st of May 2014 in Wisconsin, the United States of America, the Slender Man stabbings. On the 31st of May 2014, 2 girls, Anissa E. Weir and Morgan Geyser, would lure their friend Peyton Lutner into the wooded area of a local park, where they proceeded to stab Peyton 19 times and were intending on sacrificing her to Slender Man to become his proxies. Thankfully, Peyton survived with the help of a cyclist who found her. In 2017, both Morgan and Anissa was found not guilty by mental defect and were committed to separate mental institutions, with Anissa receiving 25 years to life and Morgan receiving 40 years to life. This event, however, brought mainstream media attention to the creepypasta community, and parents of young children were now more switched on to what their kids were watching, and many were not happy with what they were seeing, and this would eventually lead to the slow decline of the creepypasta genre. The decline of creepypasta was slow and had many reasons for it happening. One, as mentioned previously, was that parents were now actively looking at what their kids were watching and doing online, which naturally led to a drop in the core audience. Another factor on the same vein is that some of the audience grew up, and that took even more away from the core audience of viewers. One of the reasons I believe personally is that creepypasta as a genre was becoming extremely oversaturated. I mean, if you look up creepypasta on YouTube today, most of the stories are the same uninspired generic horror stories and don't really stand up to the absolute titans that the genre once produced. The genre itself was getting really stale and fast, and people started flocking to other fandoms such as SCP Foundation or analog horror. I truly believe the nail in the coffin for creepypasta was analog horror, a genre that was more compelling in the sense that it was visual and not just relying on audio recounting of the story. The storylines in analog horror tend to be more cohesive and consistent, and they are part of a series, and the love and passion that was once in the creepypasta genre, which is no longer there, I personally believe anyway, is now in the analog horror genre, such as the Mandela Catalogue, the Walton Files, and many more. The love and passion was really there for creepypasta, whereas in reality now, many of the creepypasta writers who once loved the genre have left and moved on, and so have the viewers. Well, that is all for today's video, guys. If you did enjoy today's video, please make sure to let me know by commenting down below and saying what you think of this new sort of content on my channel. I hope you did all enjoy. If you did, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because I am trying to hit 300 subscribers by the end of the year, and I will see you all in the part 2 of this video discussing the rise and the future of analog horror. See ya.